today is what we're making here, so don't tie yourself in knots while making soft pretzels with Ilana and Andy.
Today you'll be making soft pretzels as Andy said. So to start, you have 1 1/4 cups of very hot water, not boiling, and then you have a tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of yeast, and you're going to pour that into the water. And then we have a teaspoon of sugar. We're going to pour that into the water. And then you're going to lightly mix it. And you can see how thick and creamy that kind of looks already. But then, just going to set it like that. And just mix it a little bit. And then you're going to let that sit for 10 minutes. And it'll bubble up and get all creamy. And we're back. So, what happened when we were gone was the yeast, as you can see, has bubbled or inflated, as I like it. And that's exactly what you want. And then I already sorted out the ingredients, as you can see here, for the next step. So, what we did is I took 5 cups of flour, and I like to mix it up a little bit to make it healthy, but also a treat. So what I did is I put 3 cups of regular flour in and 2 cups of whole wheat flour in. So I'm just gonna click this right on in. Make sure that it doesn't wiggle around. And then I'm just gonna turn it on. Make sure to use this mixing spoon thing because it's very good for just lightly mixing things. And I'm just gonna lock it in. Make sure it doesn't go up there. Just gonna turn it on 1. So right here is where I have my sugar. This is a 1/2 cup of sugar. So I'm just going to slowly start to pour that in just so it can mix. There we go. And I like to keep a few bowls out here so that it just makes it easier to see what you've been doing. So I have my 1/2 teaspoon of salt here. And I'm just going to slowly mix this in. And that's all you're mixing in for that part, because your wet ingredients over here, your yeast and your, the yeast looks really cool, your yeast and your oil. So I'm just going to move those things. If you want to come over here and see what the flour looks like with all of these things mixed in it, that's what it looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to stop it. Unlock it, and just kind of tap this to get all the flour off it before it goes everywhere. And you're going to want to make a little well in here, like just a tiny well, but just like kind of like an indentation. And then you're going to want to pour the yeast in that well. And the oil. That looks beautiful. So that's what you want that to look like. And then I'm going to take this stirring off and put my hook on. Okay. So you got that on. You're just going to slowly put it in since it's a wet ingredient. I'm just going to lock it. And I'm just going to slowly start it going. Maybe a little faster. Because this is the dough hook. So it's making the roll of dough. And the dough is going to end up on that hook.
I love these wheat thins. Oh, hello, Ilana. It looks like you haven't been eating enough wheat thins. You're looking all bony. Here, try one. I've been giving my friend Ilana wheat thins for the last few days.
I love wheat thins. They're the best. Wheat thins. And we're back again. So, when you were gone, we kept mixing the bowl of dough so that it would make it easier for you guys to see what's going on. So in the end, this is what you want your dough to look like. It's squishy and it's in a ball. It's not like all these little flakes everywhere. And yeah, so when you have that, you're gonna get, either you can do it on your table, or I like to do it on this big cutting board that we have. You're just gonna sprinkle some flour on it, just a little bit, because the flour really dries it out. So just a little bit is fine. So you're gonna unscrew this, unscrew the bowl, and then you're gonna take out the dough. It should come out really easily, which it did for us, or me. And you're just gonna start to knead the dough. You knead the dough. And how you knead, it's a little hard at first, but once you get kneading, it gets a lot easier. So you're just going to knead it for like 7 to 8 minutes. And what you do is it's flat. You pull it over to the front, over to the side, over to the front, and you just keep folding it. You just fold it, and you fold it. And my assistant, Andy, is going to help me out with kneading the dough.
Sometimes you just need to knead. It's very therapeutic. When I'm kneading dough, I like to think about all the frustrations and difficulties that you can just knead into your dough. And as you knead in those frustrations into your dough, your life becomes airy like the bread or pretzels you're making. So we continue with our kneading procedure, folding it over. And you start to feel the dough become nice and fibrous. You can start to get more gluten, and you're mixing it all together nicely. And soon, when we're done kneading, we'll return it to the bowl with a little oil so that we can let it rise in a nice warm place. And while it's rising, you can go do other things. That's the wonderful thing about making pretzels and bread. There's some prep. You go and do other things, and then you come back and you finish it off. That's the perfect project for the day, because you can break up your work into little bits and fit everything else around it.
Okay, so my assistant Andy just finished kneading the dough because I needed a little break. So you have your bowl. It's okay if it's a little dirty from what you were working with. And you have your dough, your bowl, some cooking spray. Make sure it's a spray because it makes it so much easier. And some plastic wrap. What you're going to do is you're going to take the spray, and I'll show you guys, and you're just going to spray all around until it's covered, just so that the dough doesn't stick when it's rising. And you're just going to put the dough in the bowl, and then you're going to take piece of plastic wrap. And you're going to gently make sure it doesn't stick to everything around it. It's going to be a little tricky getting the plastic wrap on because the bowl is so oily from all the things that you've put in it. But you got to make sure it's sealed. So more than one piece is good. If you made this in a smaller bowl, it's okay. It just makes it easier for you to plastic wrap it. Okay, now you're gonna set this. I like to put it like around where all the rest of my kitchen stuff is, just so I remember where it is. And yeah, so we're gonna go wait for this to rise. See you back.
Add a little sunshine to your day and a little looseness to your stool. Raisins. Do both. I gotta go.
Okay, we're back again. So now we have our dough has risen. You can see it's at least double the size as it was before. So it's good, squishy, and good. So I suggest doing this part on a cutting board because you're going to need to cut the dough. But you can do that, and you're going to, not there yet. This is baking soda. You're going to need half a cup of baking soda. And you're going to need very hot water. We're not boiling it, but we're making it very hot. It's sounding almost hot, but not yet. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just sprinkle just a tiny bit of flour. And that water is sounding almost done. So I'm gonna. So this is done. The water is done. So I'm going to bring one of these things over so that I don't burn the table. Just to be safe. And I take my measuring cup and I'm gonna pour 4 cups of this very hot water in. Be very careful. Okay. Yeah, let's pour it on. And then I'm going to carefully pour this in without making everything splash. It sizzles. It may smell a little weird because it's baking soda, but I'm just going to take a spoon and just mix it because the baking soda needs to dissolve into the water. So cool. Yeah, so I'm just going to let that sizzle over here. Okay. Back to the dough. So it should just come right out since we sprayed, ooh, it sounds all hollow, since we sprayed the bowl. That's just going to roll out because it's a little oily. So you're just going to, as you can see on the cutting board, there are little oil stains. That is normal. Okay, so you have the dough. I'm just going to kind of open it a little bit so that it's easier to cut. You can just use a simple butter knife to cut it. So I'm going to cut it in half. It's a little tricky to cut, but it's not too bad. Okay, so it's very good dough. It's nice and squishy on the inside, and it's very dough-like. Okay, so now it's in pretty much halves. I'm just gonna, you need to cut it into exactly 12 pieces. So I'm just going to keep cutting it into halves. And there you go. So I have cut up all of the pretzel dough, and I've decided instead of making 12, I'm going to make 16 smaller ones. So I'm going to put them all on this plate here, except for one, because I'm going to teach you how to roll out a pretzel. It's okay if they're touching because they're covered in flour, so they shouldn't stick. I'm just going to move this because it's a little warm. Okay, so you have your dough. These are going to be kind of small pretzels. And what you want to do is just gently roll it out. Make sure that it doesn't totally break. So we want to kind of pinch those lines together. This part, I would say, is not the hardest part, but it is the most time-consuming part. Just pinch, pinch. Since they always bounce back, it takes a while. I like to just hit it like a jump rope, just to make it a little bigger. And kind of squeeze and pull. Whoops. Whoopsie. Okay. Thank goodness it's dough, so it can go right back together again. Okay, so this is going to be a kind of interesting pretzel because they're all different and sometimes you can't make it and twist it. So what you can do is make it a U or a horseshoe. Stretch it out so it's kind of equal, like this. Do you see that? So what you're going to do is lift up and pinch, lift up and pinch, and then just put your fingers through the holes where you want the holes to be, like that, and then it looks just like a pretzel. This one was a little tricky because it broke in half, but you can do yours any shape you want. Just make sure that the sides aren't too thin, like the rope isn't too thin, because then it'll just break and crumble in the oven. So once you're done with one, you're going to just put it on your tray to rest. I like to use a silk plat. They look like this. I'll move my silk plat this way. So I made 16 little ones, so it'll be easy, I think, to fit them all on there. And if they don't all fit because they will expand, you can always grab another one. And you can always use this kind of paper, the parchment paper for baking. It's this brown tan paper. This always works too. So you can use that too. Okay. And we're back. So now that we have our pretzels made and rolled out, you don't need to put it on a plate like this, but just wanted to show you how they all look. This is what ours look like, me and Andy's. So now you have your baking soda and water boiling, and it's still kind of boiling. And you have your pretzels. So I'm going to have Andy help me boil the pretzels.
So, we're going to dip each of our rolled pretzels into the baking soda hot water mixture. The reason we do this is, you know how pretzels have that nice brown outside. By doing this, we achieve that nice outside pretzel-y taste. Otherwise, we just have a piece of bread. Dip it in, swash it around, and put it right on. And we do that for each one. You need to leave enough space between them so when they cook, they have room to spread. So I like doing them 3 to a column, or 3 to a row here. So we're going to do that for each one.
Okay, so now since you have all the pretzels with the boiling water, I have about, maybe a little bit less than a half a cup of kosher salt. You can decide if you want kosher salt on yours. I'm going to do one tray with and one tray without so that we can have a choice of what we want. So, you're just going to take a pinch and just lightly sprinkle it. You don't want them too salty so they taste like really bad in your mouth, but you want a lot of salt too.
Well, now that we have some of our pretzels with salt, what Ilana and I thought it would be fun to not only have salty pretzels, but to have some sweet pretzels. So we made a mixture of a little sugar and cinnamon, and we'll just shake that right on, and we'll make a small batch of cinnamon sugar pretzels. It's always nice to have that savory and sweet mixture available. Now, we've preheated our oven to 450 degrees, and what we will do is put our pretzels right in, and we'll bake them for about 8 minutes. We'll set our timer to 8 minutes, and we'll wait.
You know what I love about fall? The pretty leaves outside, the nice warm apple cider, the October sky, Halloween, pumpkin carving, all of that. But you know what I love most about October and fall? Melon bars! Oh yeah, and they're celebrating 100 years! Okay, so me and Andy just took the pretzels out of the oven. They look clean, crisp, and as you can tell, they inflated just a tiny bit. Okay, so what you do when you're done cooking them is you come over to your pantry. I'm going to grab a big plate and 2 small plates. You can see why. Here. And I'm going to carefully take a spatula. I'm just going to loosen them because these are the cinnamon sugar ones. They look beautiful. Woo! They all look so beautiful. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to take one and put it on this one. And me and Andy are going to try the pretzels. And I tell you, 100% they're going to taste delicious. And we cut open 2 of them. One the first time because we added on 4 minutes when we cooked them because they weren't fully done. So you can cut it up, maybe like 1 or 2, and see if they're fully cooked in the middle. If they pull apart or if they look like this and they're like bready, they're perfect. But when we took this one apart, it looked all stretchy like when we cooked it with dough. And that's not very good. That's raw dough. So before I put the rest of these back, me and Andy are going to try these pretzels. Okay, so after me and Andy tried them, they tasted so good. We really liked them. And it's a recipe that only took about half a day because we started earlier this morning and it's already lunchtime. So, have a good day.